Hey, good day and good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, so it's IVF webinars time. I'm glad to see you all here, and I will be even more glad if you will give me a sign that you can hear me loud and clear, which will be just the information that we can start and everything is working just fine. Okay, and thank you for your feedback already. I'm Sophie and I'm your host today. Welcome to IVF Webinars by Egg Donation Friends. Week by week, we are here to talk IVF matters, to meet with best fertility experts, and to answer lots of your questions. You can watch it while we live, but all our IVF webinars are also available for you 24/7 at our website at eggdonationsfriends.com/IVF-webinars. IVF webinars are brought to you with help of our partners, and our partners are National Fertility Society, Fertility Clinics Abroad, and Donor Conception Network. And this evening, we are here to help you save some time. How? There's no doubt that looking for a suitable IVF clinic abroad takes a lot of research, which takes time. But we have some tips which will be helpful along the overwhelming process when you are choosing the IVF clinic. Our guest today is Aleksander Więcki, Chief Marketing Officer at IVF Media. So good evening to Aleksander, who is connecting with us today from beautiful Mauritius. Welcome. Good evening, Aleksander.
Good evening. Just let me know if you can hear me okay.
Yes, and we are hearing you loud, and I'm having no troubles in hearing you, so welcome one more time. And Aleksander, having a strong background in IVF industry, he is also the best person to advise you how to choose the best IVF clinic abroad and what to focus on while choosing and what to ask before you go. Of course, after the presentation, there will be time for your questions. So if you have any already now, please type your questions in the chat section, or you can do that during the presentation. We will start the Q&A session just right after. So now back to Aleksander. If you are ready, please start, and the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Sophie. So, as Sophie said, we are talking today about choosing the IVF clinic abroad. Obviously, as you can see on the first slides, I put this not before to choose and the best IVF clinic abroad because it's a tricky thing because every one of you is different and there is no such a thing best IVF clinic for everyone. I always say that because you have a different background, medical background. So probably if there are 20, 30 or 40 of you with us today live, probably for everyone we could find different clinic and it will be the best just for this one patient. So let's start. We haven't got this magic advice for you how to do it in like 5 steps or 2 steps or whatever. However, I can share with you some knowledge which comes not only from my background but also from our consultants that are supporting our patients every day with their needs, answering their questions, and trying to deal both with patients and clinics and finding the right path or way for patients who are looking for options abroad. What we notice during our journey in our company, and obviously working also for other IVF clinics, we discovered that patients not always know exactly what to ask for before they go. And obviously there is something like comparing the clinics, which is very difficult in many terms. So the most important thing from my point of view that you should be able to know after this short presentation you should know what you should ask about the clinic before you go. So let's, I'm just trying to change this slide. Okay, it's working. So just for the beginning, we got this magic formula here. Somebody asked me a few months back if we got that formula for finding the best clinic for this particular patient. I said, yes, we got it. You need a lot of energy, which comes with milk plus coffee. Because there is no formula. As I said in the beginning, everyone is different, and there is no IVF clinic that will suit every patient. Okay. So before we start, let's look what Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority, HFEA, which is from UK, and this organization is behind the IVF clinics, which are forced to report to this organization. They are giving the guidelines, recommendations. However, they are from UK, and they are covering only UK clinics. But they are doing a lot of very good things in terms of making it easier for patients to find the right clinic, and they are giving some hints, tips to patients how to, I would say, deal with this process. And as you can see on the screen, this is what they saying about the great fertility IVF clinic, which isn't just one that can give you effective treatments. It's one with compassionate staff, clear pricing, seamless administrative processes, and exceptional emotional support. As you can see, there is nothing here about the pricing points and other things that you will see further in this presentation that patients used to ask clinics for. However, I think this is a good start because everyone should remember that the IVF treatment is not a simple therapy or simple process. It's a complicated process with some kind of risk on the one side, and obviously it involves a lot of money. Depending on the treatment time. However, it's not a cheap treatment, and because if it's not cheap, you shouldn't expect that it will be very. You should expect that it will be time-consuming because it's not really easy to treat IVF patients. So let's go a bit further. So we know that there are three most often asked questions by IVF patients before they go to any particular clinic abroad or before they make the decision. Because when you're trying to find clinics on the websites, on the internet, even if you got that short list of, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 clinics, you need to ask these clinics about something. Obviously, as you can imagine, one of these most often asked questions is a pricing point. Another one, as you can see on this beautiful triangle, is a treatment time. And obviously, the other question is the success rate. So why we put this triangle all together here? I just wanted to show you that it's very difficult to. The first is very difficult to compare these parameters. And this is something we will cover in this presentation in a few slides. However, what is very important, the IVF treatment is focused on getting pregnant, or to be even precisely, to be more precise, it's not focused on the to be pregnant. It's focused to have a live birth. And if you would like to connect all of these parameters, it's really not possible to find a clinic which will support you with all of these 3 parameters. So, in other words, if you're looking for low-cost treatment, I can assure you that it's not going to be very successful and quick. From the other point of view, if you're looking to make it quick, fast, like during one visit, one day, because of the time, because it's maybe you can save some costs, etc., etc. It's not gonna be successful, and it's not gonna cost as low as we expected. And from our point of view, if we would like to have the possibility of having a very good success rate, because we are in the good center, managed with good doctors, I can assure you it's not going to be quick and it's not going to be as cheap as we expected. So these parameters are exclusive to each other. You can't just connect them, and you can't have three of them. It's impossible. This is how it works in this industry, and I can't see really the possibility to change it. So let's start with these questions that patients are asking very often to the clinics, and I try to explain you why some of these questions are asked in the wrong way. I mean, what you can do to ask the questions to get the proper knowledge of what clinics is representing, what kind of experience they have, etc., etc. So the first question that we are focusing here is most common question, and it's very often on the first place on the patient's list. What are your success rates? What does it mean? That means that we are asking the clinic, what is the average success rates of this particular unit, IVF center? It's okay. However, what you should know, the success rates are completely not comparable at any way. You can't just compare them. Why? Because all clinics are presenting these success rates in a different way. You never know if they use 100% of their patients to calculate the success rates. You don't know. Maybe they just pick up a bit smaller group, but with better success rates. We don't know that, unless they just write it somewhere on the very very end of the website they are presenting that. There are many ways of preparing these success rates, because can be cumulative, they can be per embryo transfer, per cycle, per whatever. They can include the frozen embryo transfers, and many other things can impact the success rates and the value that in the end you can see on the website. So because I must say that the IVF is it's obviously a business. And people from marketing and behind marketing in these clinics, they really know that the values and the high values make the difference. So they try and do whatever they can to show us as best values as they can on their website, because their website is a kind of advertisement. So what to do not to fall in this trap, IVF success rate trap? Well, the best way, if you would like to get to know about the success rates at a particular unit or clinic, just to present your medical history and ask about your individual chances. I mean, your individual prognosis for successful treatment based on your medical history, on your history of, I don't know, failed IVF cycles, your diagnosis, I don't know if you had any miscarriages, surgeries, etc., etc. There are some important things that you can include in these communications with the clinic to make it easier for them to put you at some point when they trying to figure out your chances to the one of the particular one of the groups of the patients they have already treated. So this is a big difference, because at that point you are not asking what is the average at the clinic for all of the patients. You are asking about the average for the patients with similar history or similar medical background than you. This is very important because it forces clinic to at least think about it and create a personalized offer. If they get back to you and say our average success rates are like, I don't know, 60% or 70, and they don't refer to what you said about your history, your age, and all of these important parameters, that means that they didn't do their work properly. I mean, they just sending the same answers to every patient. If they really care to have you on board as a patient with this particular clinic, then we get back to you with additional questions, because to be perfectly honest, to give you a a clue at what of the patients you can be because of your diagnosis, etc., and all of these parameters, they need to have a while, because it's not really easy to do that. However, it's possible. So this is the first thing I would like to share with you. This is the simple chart of the success rates that we used based on the ISHRA report. ISHRA is the biggest organization in Europe, and they most of the clinics in Europe, in every country, they're reporting to national organizations, and these national organizations are reporting level up to ISHRA, and ISHRA create, develop, implement these reports, so everyone can see what are the success rates as an average per country. You can't see it for as per clinic, but you can see how it looks as per the particular country. Is it helpful? I would say no, because you never know how many patients, what kind of groups, etc. You would spend probably 10 hours on this report, and it would be still difficult to figure out how it's been done. However, I'm showing that because these differences between the countries are not really big, and the reason for that there are differences can be different, and it doesn't mean that one country is worse and one country is better, because we are talking about the average. It's statistics. That means if, let's for example say Spain, for the treatment, the IVF with Onyx, they as per the ISHRA report is showing that for women aged more than 40, it's 14.8. It means that 14.8 women get pregnant out of the 100 women. Okay, but if you can see, it's similar in every country. The exception is Ukraine, because it's really high in here, and the Latvia opposite way, because it's really low. But we don't really know what's the reason that this number are there's such a big difference. So obviously it doesn't help you to find this clinic comparing the success rates that way. I'm showing the success rate based on ISHRA because this is the only one source of comparable success rates. It's really difficult to compare success rate as per IVF centers, because in most countries you haven't even gotten access to any national data presenting the success rates as per center, the IVF unit in a country. So to be perfectly honest, clinics can put on the website whatever they want. Obviously, some of them are certified; they got the external certification, but it doesn't mean that it's comparable, because if you got one clinic which is certified and 5 which are, certified in the meaning of the presenting the data of on the website. If you count the data in 3 different ways and you have a certification for that, you can present 3 different values for the success rates. I'm just showing you that as maybe a kind of referring point of what clinics is saying. Today on the market, if you look on egg donation treatment, if you compare egg donation success rates, which are today, these days, showing on the clinic's website, you will see that these values here are really low, because most of the clinics will tell you that they have between 60, 70, even 80, 85% success rates. Okay, But there are a few things to remember. They can count these success rates in a bit different way, because this is the pregnancy per embryo transfer. This is what Ishra is presenting. That means that there is a long time to the live birth. But some of the clinics are showing success rates, including frozen embryo transfer, which makes it really higher. So it means that you have let's say it's the IVF with donor eggs, and you got like 4 or 5 embryos. You got 1 or 2 transfers, so you got 3 embryos vitrified. That means that we will have another cycle. If the first one is not successful, we get another one from your frozen embryos, and some of them are counting as a 1 cycle because it will look a bit better on the statistics. And there are many other ways to do that. Okay, but I wanted to show you a different thing, which will be a very good starting point for you before you even contact the clinic. There is something like, I don't know if anybody of you knows that tool that I'm showing now. This is the SART calculator. SART is an organization in UK which is responsible for collecting data from all IVF clinics in the United States. They're working with SRM, which is the main organization, like a national body in regulating the IVF, guidelines, recommendations, etc. And SART and ASRM, they are a part of CDC, which is a part of Ministry of Health in USA. So there are official organizations, and all of the clinics are forced to report every treatment with many details to this organization. And that means that they've got a lot of very useful data, and that led them to create the calculator for patients. It doesn't mean that it shows you the exact values for your particular situation, because it's impossible. However, you'll be very, very close, knowing just a few things about your history, medical background, diagnosis, to see what is the prognosis in your individual situation. It's obviously based on USA patients, but as you can see here, this is based on 500,000 cycles of therapy to more than 320,000 women. So it's huge database. It's better the database than any clinic you will contact, I can assure you. And as you can see here, this is the tool is very smart because they are collecting this data from clinics in very detailed way. So they can just try to put anybody who is filling in this tool into the particular group of the patients and check what is the prognosis based on this 500,000 cycles. So they are asking about the age because it's important. They are asking about how tall are you, because after that and your weight, they calculating the BMI, which at least with IVF with own eggs is one of the very important factors influencing success rates. Obviously, there's a question about the prior pregnancies, etc. However, what is very important, you can check in the diagnosis that you have been given for infertility. And there are a lot of options here, and you can mix them up. So you can select even 4 if you wish, because there are patients with many things happening in their life in terms of diagnosis. So obviously you can select, I don't know. However, there is a male factor, endometriosis, ovulation disorders, diminished ovarian reserve, uterine factors, tubal, blah, 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 and all of this stuff. So there is almost everything that can be categorized from the US point of view. I mean, the database from the clinics who are reporting. And obviously at the very end, you can select the treatment that you are going to undertake, whether it's IVF with your own eggs or IVF with donor eggs. And for all of you interested in this tool, You can see there's it's really easy to find in internet. If you go to Google or whatever search tool you're using and you type in the SART predictor or SART calculator, it should come up on the first results. But it's very useful because, as you can see on the next slide, this is the first part of results that this tool will give you. And as you can see, I put age 38, 1.6 meters, 65 kilograms. So BMI has been calculated. Prior pregnancy 0, 0, and then my own X. So we got the woman 38 with BMI 25.5, and she's trying to get the information of or prediction of the success rates for the treatment with her own X. And the cause of the infertility, I select male factor and diminished ovarian reserve, which is very often seen in the clinics. So as you can see, the cumulative live births. So this is not the kind of calculator that's showing you that you got the chance of having the pregnancy. This tool is based on the live births, which is very, very important, because this is the take-home baby parameter. This is what every patient should look for at the end of the day. And as you can see, it shows you the probability of live birth after number of cycles. This is the first cycle. It's 23%, 37 patients after 2 cycles, and even 48% the probability of live birth after 3 cycles. And as we go to another slide, there is the second group of the results that this tool will show you based on the certain parameters. So you can see here what's the risk of twins depending on number of embryos transferred. And you can see 1 cycle with 1 embryo. It's here. So the probability is 27, but the risk of multiple pregnancy is 1%. And then 2 cycles with 1 embryo, 38%, and the risk of multiple pregnancy, 2%. And then 1 cycle with 2 embryos, and you got the probability, 33, but the risk of multiple pregnancy, 23%. So I would advise to every patient, before you contact any clinic, you can check, you can use that tool just maybe as a referring point, because if you can see here that you are at this position of this woman, that I just did it for test purposes, but if you got the similar parameters, you can see that if you go to the previous one, that the probability after first cycle is 23%. But we are talking about live births here. Not many clinics in Europe will share any information about live births with you, because it's not common in Europe. In US, if you ask any clinic, they will get back to you with information because they are reporting that anyway, and they got it. In Poland, in Europe, it works in a bit different way. However, if the clinic gets back to you with the information that 60%, and even if it's pregnancy, like I don't know, 6 or 12 weeks, it can look a bit suspicious comparing to, the national average in United States. So I would use that tool just to check out for the referring point for the similar situation patients. Sorry. Okay. If you didn't notice this website address, you can ask us on the chat. We will put it on the chat window. Okay, so the success rates, that was the first question, and this is the message from National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion USA, which is behind the report that they are producing for United States. they call it Fertility Clinics Success Rates Report, based on SART data, which are collected from US clinics. And what they're saying about the, choosing the IVF clinic, or the way of choosing the IVF clinic. We encourage consumers considering ART means any type of IVF or insemination treatment, to contact clinics to discuss their specific medical situations. This is exactly what I told you on the beginning of this first question about the success rates. Ask about your specific medical situation and their potential for success using IVF or whatever kind of the treatment it is. It's very important. That wise, you will check if the clinic is really up to helping you and trying to help you out. Okay, let's go a bit further. Another question, which is number 2 on our list, is what is the IVF or egg donation cost? Because that's the second thing patients are asking, is the cost. And this is similar situation. The first, what you should remember, it's very difficult to compare these costs. It's very difficult because every clinic can offer you something different, and there are some hidden elements that you will have to pay on top of that, and you wouldn't even notice that before you go to the clinic. And sometimes there are some things included that are not comparable between clinics anyway. These days, we also have these programs with flat rate, where are included many things, and it's even difficult to get the price for them if you buy them separately. So it's really difficult. However, I just wanted to show you. This is the screen from our guide that we created for patients who are looking for treatment abroad, and we are wondering how to compare this pricing points. We came up with the idea, instead of publishing the average cost of the treatment as per country, we did it in different way. And as you can see here, you can see the minimum and maximum that what we have found within these countries. And as you can see in Spain, as far as donor egg treatment is concerned, you have something between 6,000 and 11,000 euro, and this is the average cost of this kind of treatment. However, if somebody asks you that if it can be, or it's possible that it will be 15, yes, it's possible, because if you put all of these add-ons on the treatment plus some genetic tests, and there are many possibilities to make it even more pricey. So yes, it's possible, but this is the kind of somebody's writing on the chat, and I'm just answering. Yes, the SART works with both treatment types: IVF with own eggs and IVF with donor eggs, which you can choose from the little combo box on the very bottom of this first section. Okay, getting back to the pricing. So as you can see, there are differences between countries, and this is obviously one of the factors that patients, looking for the country first and then the clinic, especially these patients who are, who haven't got a lot of money, trying to save some costs and make it like the budget is tight. So so they can see here, or you can see here, that there are cheaper options and obviously more expensive options. Somebody is saying that have a balanced translocation and not see option to tick on the SART. Yes, everything which is connected with PGS, translocation, whatever Estonian or balanced or whatever kind of translocation they are, and PGD in the meaning of diagnosis for single gene diseases, it's not I would say included on SART calculator, because they haven't got that data. Maybe in a future version of this tool, it will be possible. I don't know. Okay. So as you can see, there are these costs. We have divided that on for treatment with donor eggs and own eggs, which are obviously a bit lower. You can find this chart and many other information, valuable and very nice, very important information from your point of view in the guides that we published 3 months ago. But I will have a few words about this guy on one of the slides. Okay, but from your point of view, what is important? How to ask about the pricing, and this is not really easy, because if you can't compare, it's very difficult to see what offer like suits you best. So this is something I prepare for you to make it easier for you. It makes it easier, and at the same point it makes it more difficult. Why? Because we are looking for the cost of IVF treatment for your individual case. It's not every program that clinic is offering is for every patient. We had just a question about the translocation. That would be different program with PGS testing, etc. That would be more expensive. So depending how you ask the question, so you can influence the quality of the answer from the clinic side, but always ask about, this is obviously connected with your medical diagnosis background, your issues, and etc., and maybe even what have happened in the previous IVF cycles. Because if the clinic knows that, they can prepare really, I would say, bespoke or personalized offer for you. So this is the advice from us, how to ask about the pricing point. You can't just ask about what is the price of this kind of treatment without letting clinics, from the clinic's point of view, it's, I would say, unprofessional, because they need to know a bit more about you to create the offer for you. Some patients need these procedures, and the other patients need other procedures. So it's worth to connect this this question with the success rate questions, where obviously you need to support clinic with some kind of background or history and diagnosis of your infertility. Okay. And this is the last question the patients, patients are asking many questions, but these three are really asked more often. And the third one is, how long does the treatment take? But the problem is that this question is tricky, because as from clinic's point of view, it means that the quicker the better. I mean, there are clinics in Europe who are doing whatever they can just to make the treatment in one visit. Patients is happy, because if you are a patient and you get the answer from one clinic from Spain, from Czech, and I don't know, from Greece, and one of them is saying, okay, you just come over on Monday and you'll be back home on Tuesday. I'll say great. And the second clinic from Spain will say, okay, you will come over on Monday, but you need to stay till Friday, because we need extra consultations, etc. It will cost something on top of what we advertise and show you on the website. However, it's important, because we are talking about having a baby. And the third clinic says 2 weeks. You see, most of the patients would probably think that this first clinic who says that we can do that in 1 day, just as an example, is better. Well, in terms of the time frame, is better, but we are talking about serious treatment, which takes a time, medical knowledge. Doctor has to know you very well, including your history, diagnosis. You never know what happens when you come over to the clinic for this first visit. Maybe it will turn out that you need some additional tests, etc., etc. So this is something very difficult to compare and to make this decision based on. But I'm just talking about the risks and how it looks from the clinic's point of view. You need to remember from the clinic's point of view, it's always better to treat patients 1 day. because it's faster, cheaper, they get a better profit. But this is not the point of treating the patients. You as a patient are expecting the quality, and at the end of the day, as we told in the beginning, take home baby factor, which is the most important thing. So how you can ask about this time frame? It's exactly the same as with the success rates and the costs. Ask about the optimal treatment duration for you. Based on your history and your diagnosis and clinic's experience with this kind of patients, etc., etc. This is very important. I know that I'm repeating the same thing the third time, but believe me, we have visited with my colleague Jacob, I don't know, maybe 100 clinics, and they all told us the same when we ask about the most often asked questions from patients. They know that because they got the customer service team and they know what patients are asking for, and they said they told us exactly the same. Patients are asking about the success rates, costs, and the treatment time. I mean, how quick they can do that. So, and most of the clinics told us that this is not good because most of them, on this kind of questions, there are answering, asking the questions. Okay, tell me your medical history, etc., etc., so we can get back to you with an offer. Yeah, because everyone is different, but some of them are not doing that way. Okay, so what to remember? You can't compare success rates. This is simply impossible. Comparing IVF treatment costs is very difficult or not possible. Sometimes it can be possible if the treatment is really simple, etc., and there are like basic procedures, so you can compare it. But most of you probably need something more, and in that case, comparing this cost it's very difficult. I know from what our consultants, Elizabeth and Caroline, told me, and to our team, that there are patients who got this Excel sheets and trying to put everything there, it costs any money, and trying to figure out which clinic is like a bit cheaper or more expensive, etc., etc. I mean, it's nothing wrong doing that. However, at the end of the day, the quality is the thing that matters. At the end of the day, you shouldn't think that the cheapest one is the best one, because it doesn't work that way. Not only in this industry, it doesn't work that way if you're buying a car or whatever you're doing in life. This is about the costs, and this is something that may surprise you a bit. Looking for the clinic and calculating the cost, whatever you got on your Excel, and whatever grand total the Excel show up after calculation, I can tell you should add 30% on average on top of what is advertised and what you calculated. I give you one example here. There are many examples for that, but in a few slides I show with an example how it works. What's important from patient's perspective when looking for this best IVF center? I would say there are 4 very important things in this relationship between clinic and the patients. The first is a clear information, but this is something that was mentioned by HFEA, thing that I showed you on the beginning. Clear information about the pricing, process, and possibilities. Transparency, honesty. I mean, if you are talking about the outcome, your medical situation, if I would be a patient, I would prefer the clinic who will tell me the truth, not the marketing truth, because I would like to know. And the patient's-doctor relationships, which I believe it's very important. We are doing this. We are running the project of free online consultations which are organized with the doctors from selected IVF clinics. We've done, I don't know how many, but many of these consultations so far. And we see that as far the patients trust the doctor, and this is good first step on the beginning, because these consultations are online, so you don't have to travel 2,000 kilometers to just have a visit, and you know, and you never know what's going on after this visit. If you like the doctor, if you don't like the doctor, if the if you feel that this doctor is like this one who will help you out, because these are things that you can feel. Most of you wouldn't say what are 3 or 4 parameters that you feel that way, but after this short 30 minutes consultation, you will feel if it's the doctor who can bring something new to your treatment process, or not. So this is a good way to check it out. But what we know from feedback from our patients that are getting back to us after this consultation, they are very happy that they had this possibility, because this is something that saves time and costs, not doing the Excel spreadsheets and trying to figure out grand total, which will be €500 less than in other clinic. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about successful treatment and not about the very, very low pricing point. Okay, we're just getting to very, very back. This is the example I told you a few minutes back, success rates versus treatment costs. So if you are looking at for example, let's say you are looking on one of the clinics in one of the whatever country it is. You're looking on the website and it says, okay, egg donation treatment is, I don't know, 83%. Oh, that sounds great. Clinic looks good. Very good unit. Let's go there. Let's see what's happening. And some patients are going for the treatment. As you can see in this example, this is the patients who saw the advertised costs for egg donation treatment around €9,000. You need to remember that on egg donation treatment, on average, you will get between 3 or even 6 embryos easily, unless you have a manufacturer problems and this kind of thing. But some of the patients are using donor sperm as well. So on average, the number of embryos which patients are getting after the egg donation treatment is obviously higher than after the treatment with owners. So these patients had 5 embryos and the cost of €9,000. And she wasn't pregnant after the first cycle. So 3 embryos have been vitrified. And you need to remember that clinic is not gonna do the frozen embryo transfer for free. And it costs money. In this country, it's kind of expensive. So this patient ended up with 14,000 euro. And this is around this 30% I told you on the previous slides. To add it in your calculation, because obviously this patient didn't know that they're gonna have like embryos vitrified and another cost, etc. But you need to remember that these patients made the decision based on the success rates which were presented, and these success rates included the frozen embryo transfer. But nobody says below the success rate that for this procedure you need to pay extra. So this is something difficult to figure out, but these days the number of clinics who are putting on the websites, I would say, good, reliable information about the success rates is increasing. However, you still can find the clinics who just put the number and that's it, and you never know what is that. But be aware about frozen embryo transfer. In most examples, in most clinics, in most programs, they will cost additional money, and this is not a very, very cheap procedure. Okay. I just repeated that again, but it's very important to know that something like that might happen. So what if you're looking for the cheapest clinics in one of the countries? I put it here because we had the seminars on fertility show, and some of the patients came over to have a quick chat after the seminars on fertility show in London, and one of them asking that they're looking for the cheapest clinics, and I answered that if you look for the cheaper clinic in one of the destination, trying to find the cheaper destination and the clinic above the average, the pricing point, because this is like in real life. The cheapest is not good or very good. The cheap is cheap. I would say that most of the clinics which are on average pricing point in the country and above, they're good IVF centers. And you should be all right with these clinics as far as this patient's-doctor relationship will be okay. However, looking for very, very cheap, the cheapest options in one of the countries, I wouldn't say it's a good idea. Okay, so this is the guide I mentioned a few times because we had a few charts that I just have a print screens from this guide. You can download this guide for free on Egg Donation Friends and on whereivf.com, where is the guide was originally published. It's just a PDF with 55 pages, and there are 8 countries covered over there with very, very informative comparison of every destination included in the guide: Spain, Czech Republic, North Cyprus, Greece, Ukraine, Poland, Russia, and Latvia. Okay, so that's it. I hope it was just even 1% helpful. I would be very glad if it was. And just one word on the very, very end: be careful, not suspicious. No, there's nobody trying to cheat you. Just be careful, and you'll be all right. Thank you very much. So if you have any questions, just put them in this little window. Yes, and Sophie probably will read them for us.
Okay. There are already.
Sophie, are you still with us?
Yes, can you hear me, Aleksander? Hello.
I can't hear Sophie, but I hope you hear me. Thank you, Sophie. I think I can't hear Sophie. Maybe you can. However, she helps up with putting questions on the screen, so I read them anyway. I found one clinic in Turkey. They are asking to provide marriage certificate. Is it correct to ask for the patient? To be perfectly honest, we haven't covered Turkey in our guides. I know that in Turkey there are few things which may look weird from the patient's perspective. However, if they are treating only marriage couples, they probably need a proof of that you are the marriage couple. So yes, I think if the law in Turkey says that they treat only marriage couples, it is correct to ask patients for that, because they need to find a way to to check if it will be okay according to the law. Okay.
Okay, and as we are heard both, I will now display the second question.
Okay, I have the problem that my diagnosis that my chance to have a kid is almost zero with my uterus. Therefore, I have these questions. Okay, Sophie, let's just for what criteria to choose if a surrogate mother is needed and egg retrieving? Less eggs is difficult. Do you have suggestions for good surrogate mother agencies? Can you recommend a country for the surrogate mother process if we live in Germany? Legal aspects. Okay, I can't really answer on the first 2 questions because we are not really into surrogacy. I mean, we are not against or something. We just don't work with surrogacy. We have sometimes patients who are looking for this kind of solution, and this is why I can answer on the third question as a recommendation of the country. It's not a recommendation. It's just a common knowledge that we know from our expertise. We know that there are 2 countries Greece and Ukraine that you can try to do this, surrogacy solution. There is also Georgia with, as I heard, very good law. However, as I'm not an expert in surrogacy and I don't want to make any misunderstanding and share any wrong information. However, if you contact our consultants, they will get back to you with this information because they know quite well, as they are working with the clinics who are also supporting patients with this kind of needs. If you just write an email that Sophie will put in this chat window here, which is patients@eggdonationfriends.com, Elizabeth or Caroline will get back to you and probably help you out, sharing the knowledge about law differences, because I'm sure these three countries are sorry, okay for some kind of patients. However, there are differences in legislation, and not every patient is allowed to do this kind of things in this country. So I think Elizabeth or Caroline will help you out with the pleasure if you be so kind and write an email to them. Okay, it's okay. I didn't help you too much. However, our consultants are able to do that. Okay. Okay. What about asking about donor sperm, egg information, medical history, and tests? How can we find out what is important to know when you choose your embryo? I'm not sure if I properly understand the question. Just give me a second. What about asking about donor sperm, egg donation, egg information, medical history, and tests? Okay, you mean probably the information about the history of the egg donor or sperm donor. I don't know if I understood it in proper way. How we can find out what is important to know when you choose your embryo. Okay, if you are talking about the information about the donor sperm and information about the all size for the donor, you can always ask as many questions as you can. The basic question for both of the genetic material would be how these donors are qualified and what kind of tests they have done during the qualification process. This is very important because you can check if these tests are done according to the law, if the clinic is doing something on top of that, because some clinics are doing more tests because they believe they are important. So these questions are very important, and you can always ask them. You have also an option to get the donor sperm from some external sperm bank, which are a few in Europe, and all of them would be happy to share any information they've got about the donor. The problem that may appear on at some point is that if this is the open donor, I'm talking about the donor sperm, and you try to get it from the external sperm bank, there are some countries that you won't be able to transport this material in because of the legal issues, because the non-anonymous genetic material is not allowed over there. Okay, how can we find out what's important to know when you choose your embryo? Your embryo, I mean, probably you mean the embryo for the transfer. If you got I don't know, 3 embryos, you're talking about the quality, which one to choose for the embryo transfer. There are 2 things to remember about the embryo quality. There should be a doctor and the embryologist involved in the process, and some clinics are offering embryologist consultation at that point. Obviously free of charge. Some of them are charging for that. However, it's very important to consult the embryologist and obviously the doctor, and you will make decision within the doctor which embryo is better quality and should be qualified for the embryo transfer. So this is what I know about the embryology and the process, how it looks in the clinic. Let me know if it wasn't that what you were asking for. Okay.
Okay, and the next question then.
Okay, I can hear you, Sophie, now.
Oh, okay, great. So the next question will be, do you know if there is difference in success if donor is 33 rather than below 25?
23. Let me think. I think in the, let me check that because I could open our guide and I can see the maximum age of the donor in most of the countries is 34. Okay, let me put it in this way. It depends on what kind of donor is qualified for the process, because you can imagine the donor, a woman who had 2 pregnancies, 2 live births, and 2 healthy kids, and she's now a donor. This is the donor with proven pregnancy. And whatever age it is, as far as the oocytes are okay, she will be probably okay. And you can imagine the donor who is 21. Obviously, it's a very young woman, probably healthy because it's she will be checked throughout during the qualification process. However, she's never been pregnant, so you never know. I don't know if this kind of this way of thinking is okay, but I'm just giving you an example how different can be the point of view when you're looking at the donors. I can give you another example, and this is something that you may find in some clinics. And sometimes they say that they got the donor which is proven fertility donor, and it doesn't mean that this donor, this woman, has been pregnant at some point of her life. It means that this donor is a donor for the 3rd or the 4th time, and they had successful pregnancies and live births from the genetic material retrieved from this particular donor. And even though this donor is 30, it doesn't mean that it's worse in any aspect of from the donor who is 25 or 21. So I think there is no straight answer on that question. It's not black and white as everything in this industry and the treatment, because everything is complicated by genetics, obviously age, and many other factors. So what we know, and you can find it in many publications, that as far as the woman age is increasing, the oocyte quality is getting worse, not better. So I just don't really know, because I'm not the doctor, and I really doubt that there is anyone who knows that. If this 8 years of difference really makes a difference. So I don't know that. However, bearing in mind the examples I gave you, it's not really easy to compare these 2 ages. I think that we need to have more information about the donor qualification history, etc., etc. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and hoping that you can still hear me, Aleksander.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, glad to hear that. I will read the next question for you then. And
Okay.
This is it. We live in Dublin, Ireland, and there is only one clinic doing PGT, and testing are actually sent to UK. PGT is pretty new in Dublin, so I'm worried how good will it be. Is it very expensive? Is there a country well known for PGT success and quality?
Okay, this is I think this is a very good question, because we need to be aware of 2 things in the process. The first one, obviously, apart fertilization and getting an embryos, because to do any kind of that treatment, you need the embryos to do the biopsy, and this is where the problems may start. So at the first place, it's not the question of the PGT testing or PGS or whatever technique it is. whatever technique it is, your embryology lab at the clinic you are treated, they need to do the embryo biopsy. And the first question is if they are well experienced in doing that. In most cases, it would be done on the fifth day of the embryo development. Then the embryos will be frozen, vitrified, and these samples will be sent to the place you mentioned in your question, whatever it is, one country or another. So this is the first part of the process. Doing the embryo biopsy, it's not easy thing. It needs good knowledge, experience, and very good embryologists. So this is the first question. If the clinic in Ireland that where you're going or undertaking your treatment has good experience in doing these things. I think probably if just on the one clinic, so I believe that they undertake many of this kind of treatment. If it's not a PGT, it can be PGS or any other technique. But anyway, it's connected with doing the biopsy, and this is what needs to be done to have a proper samples to send to any laboratory on the world. And referring to the second part of the question, um, testing are actually sent to UK. PGT is pretty new in that, so I'm worried how good it will be. I don't know because I don't know what laboratory it is. However, I can tell you that there are hundreds of clinics in Europe who are working in exactly the same process. There are clinics in Spain who are working on the same process, in Czech Republic, in UK. Not every clinic is doing these things in house because it's pretty expensive to cover all the costs, etc. So you need to do a lot of testing to make it profitable. So that's why there are laboratories or clinics who are having these laboratories on site or specializing within this kind of services, and they're just trying to help other clinics as well to make the treatment more accessible for the patients like you, because as you are saying, they are not doing it in house; they're just sending it out somewhere. Referring to the last part, is there a country well known for PGT success and quality? I would say that every country, I would say Spain, even UK, Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, and Greece, there are clinics who are doing these things on site and are specializing in it. I can't really tell which country is better known or have better results or are doing better things, because I don't think there is a big difference between countries. Doing this kind of things, the PGT testing is a huge responsibility, and this responsibility is on people who are signing off the document with the results. You see what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they are confirming that this embryo is free of what you were looking for in this embryo. So free from single gene disorder or translocation or any chromosome abnormalities, etc. This is huge responsibility. So I can't see any country in Europe which would, do it in a really wrong way, because at the end of the day, it might happen that they will have problems with that. So they employ good genetics and all people in laboratory to make sure that do everything they can to make it right for the patient.
Yes, and thank you for the question and your answer as well. So we will now take a look at the next question, and this question will be: in Ukraine, some of the clinics are showing photos of the donors on their websites. How can you be sure that the donor you select is the one from a photo?
Well, this is the first time I'm experiencing this question. I mean, I haven't seen this question so far. And I don't really know what to say. I would say if it's a good center with good reputation, I would really believe that what they're showing is true. I mean, I can't see a reason to to be suspicious about the situation. They are showing something like that is good for marketing point of view, but you end up with something different. um, I, I wouldn't say not to trust them. Obviously, you need to be careful. You can check the center before you go. Ukraine is one of these countries that you got a direct contact to UARM, which is organization behind the IVF clinics, and you can always ask these organizations. If you download our guide from whereivf.com or donationfriends.com, you will find in the Ukraine section, because every country has got a different section over there. You will see there on the very end of Ukraine section, there is information about the organization and people that you can write direct emails to ask about the particular clinics. There are also phone numbers. These people speak English, and you can ask about particular units if they got a good reputation, about the doctors who are working then, etc., etc. So this is what I would advise if you have some doubts, if the clinics you are looking for look suspicious from your point of view. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for sharing your opinion on this question as well. And indeed, we have the next on the list, so straight to it. We were about to proceed with clinic in North Cyprus a couple years back, and then they stopped communicating. We got to know that they were closed down, sorry, and owner went to jail. We hear so many rumors about this location, but the price is good there. How we can make sure that clinic is operating legally?
Again, good start would be downloading our guides. There are some information about the North Cyprus. What you saying here is right. We know that situation. Um, the point is that there is a problem with a law in the Cyprus or North Cyprus. Sorry, it's not. We are not talking about Cyprus, which is very south. We are talking about North. Um, the, and it's not a problem of lack of the law. The law exists, and it's not really very bad. I mean, it lets these clinics do a lot of things that are not possible in other countries. However, it's okay. I mean, because you can control that. However, the problem is the lack of the control if the clinics are working according to the law or they are not. And the problem is that the Ministry of Health changed the certification process of IVF clinics in North Cyprus, and that happened in 2016, I believe. And if you are trying to find the right unit or IVF center for you, ask them about the certification which has been issued after the 2016. The other thing is that apart from the clinic certification, all doctors should be certified as well. So you can ask about the certification of the doctor. It's a nice little document. They just scan or take the shot and send you via email. So as far as we know, there are, I think, 5 certified centers today in North Cyprus, unless something changed during last month. And out of the 15 or 16 centers over there. Certified, I mean these who apply to this new certification process which been issued after 2016. Anyway, you can find more information about the Cyprus in our guide. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you. And we can now take a look at the next question. I would like to know, when I choose my embryo profile, what medical tests are important to have been done on the sperm and eggs. In addition, I find it difficult to find out what the donor's medical history is. And is there a website where I can find more information on this?
I think you are referring to still to the same situation of the donor's background and what has been done with the donor during the qualification process, what's the medical history like from family, etc., etc. The problem is that there are some restrictions in some countries. So as far as for example in Spain, you can have an information easily about tests that have been done during the qualification process. They will list you all the tests, etc. However, you won't have any information about the donor characteristics, which these clinics in Spain are not allowed to share it, with patients because the donation thing in Spain is anonymous. That means that they will try to phenomatch to do the phenotype matching to the recipient. That means that this donor will be very close to your basic parameters like the height, race, and obviously the color of the eyes. So, however, there are different countries that allow you to see more information, including sometimes the donor picture as the donor was a young baby, or sometimes the baby that has been born from the donor. There are many options. And obviously some more information about particular donor, including the hobbies, what they, like to do, if they got the special skills like music or whatever, the educational background, etc., etc. Plus, obviously the genetic history and the medical review from the genetic point of view of the family, like father, mother, sister, or or any other from very close family to the donor. However, if you ask us about the medical tests that are important to have been done on the sperm eggs, I don't really know. Again, if you download there is you won't find their information which tests are important. However, you will find their information about the donor eggs. I mean, oocyte donors. What, according to the law, they have to be, done regarding laboratory testing and other testing to qualify as a donor. And you will find that information. So you can just look through the countries and you can see easily which country has more tests and less tests. However, you need to remember that there are clinics who are doing a lot more than required by law, because they believe it's important from patients and from donor point of view. The popular thing today is genetic testing of the donor. For the single gene disorders and all of these things that, from genetic point of view, can be seriously or make some kind of treat, just not to let the inheritance of the genetic disorder, go at some point to the recipient. But to be perfectly honest, this is the kind of testing that should be done both for donor and recipient, because they need to find which disorders or which kind of genes you have and the donor. So there are many things that clinics are doing on top of what they should do regarding the law. So that could be the good starting point to start. Because if you're asking me what tests are important, obviously there are many tests that should be done. However, I can't just give you the list, because there will be also the doctor on one country on the world who say, oh, you're missing that one because this is very important. I don't know. If you look at the guide, you see what are the country requirements, so you will have a look on how it looks in popular countries in Europe.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you.
We will now take a look on the next question, which is maybe a little more medical, and probably it's just more suitable for free online consultation, but I will publish this and read that out loud. I'm 41, had recent failed IVF first cycle, have a fibroid 2 on 2 centimeters right outside the uterine lining, AMH 1.1. Should the fibroid be removed? What can I do to increase my success?
Only because I'm not a doctor. I wish I could be, however, I'm not. The only answer I can give you is to contact our consultants, Elizabeth or Caroline. The email address you will find in the chat window, and they can arrange the free consultation for you with your doctor with one of the clinics we are cooperating with. These consultations are free. However, you need to have a chat with our consultants to find the most suitable solution for you, because it's not random. So we need to know what you are looking for. We know just a part of it, but we need to know a bit more, and then we'll be able to support you with this kind of consultation. I believe that the doctor is the best person to answer that, and I don't know if this is not too less of information to give you the straight answer on that question. Thank
yes,
you.
and great, and thank you a lot. We have indeed a few questions to go, so the next one for you is this one. Can you please give me the name, email, and telephone number of the organization you spoke about, the Ukraine clinics, and their reputation?
I can't do it right now. However, I just write in the chat window. This is the website address. You can download the published guide. It's free. No worry. Let me know if you see the website address, and I tell you on which page you find this information, because I got open that on my computer. Just give me a second. If you go to page 37, you will find sorry, there is no telephone number. That's my mistake, but there's two names, Irina Bebenhuk and Natalia Silina, and there is the email address over here. Okay, I just copied it and paste for you. But anyway, if you would like to know more about Ukraine, just download the guide, because there are more. You will find more very interesting information about the Ukraine, as well as about other countries.
Yes, and thank you for the information on this question as well. And we will now jump to the next one. Hi, I'm a latecomer, sorry, no problem. Looking into clinics in Czech Republic, will it be appropriate to ask if they specialize in adenomyosis and endometriosis?
Yes, this is a very good question. To be perfectly honest, I had a few slides about the thing you are asking for in my presentation. However, I removed them because the presentation, as you experienced, had like 40 minutes, so it was a bit long. However, in the presentation, I showed you 3 questions that patients very often ask the clinics, and in most examples, they're asking these questions in the wrong way. And this example here about asking, about the specialization of the clinic, of the doctor, this is something which happens very rarely. There are not many patients asking this way, and I would highly recommend to do that, because if you got any issue connected with infertility, I'm sure there are clinics who are really specialized in this kind of treatment, treating like 20 or 50 patients in similar situations a month. And you can imagine the other clinic who is treating one patient a month with similar case. I would definitely check out the clinic who has broader experience because they are dealing with these patients every day, etc., etc. So I would say this is very, very good to to ask the clinic that way. So if you have a low ovarian reserve and any other issues, just put them on a list. Say, hey, have you got a doctor who are specializing with this with similar cases? How many patients like me you are treating every month, etc. So then you can make kind of judgment if that clinic is uh, you know um, mm, well experienced or a bit less experienced. However, you need to ask a few clinics to not only one, because it's always good to have something to compare. And what I would recommend is to try to get the online consultation before you go to any of these clinics. Even if you have to pay for that, it's well worth and it's well spent money, because you don't have to travel. I don't know where are you from, and how many kilometers you have to travel, but if you are UK, it's still probably 2,000 kilometers. So it's always easier to spend, I don't know, 100 or 200 euro, get this consultation. And even though you don't go to this clinic, maybe the doctor will help you a bit with understanding, with different options, with maybe that will be the person who is thinking out of the box and just give you a hint or a tip or what to do in the future, how the process should look like, and then you'll be able to use that in different clinic that will be asking for their advice. So definitely, yes, you should ask about the specialization of the clinic. What's more important, ask about these doctors who are dealing with these patients and try to get the consultation with them. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer and, of course, for the question as well. We will now take a question which has two parts, I believe. So the first one will be this one. Do you know if we do a journey in Russia, if my husband and I will be the legal IPs when any child is born? I was told that egg donor has the right to change her mind after embryos are made. Likewise, that the surrogate has the right to change her mind within a month or so and keep the baby after it is born. Likewise, my question from above, the Russian egg donors and surrogates same in Georgia. I've heard both egg donor and surrogate have the right to change their mind and keep embryos and or baby. Any
Uh,
advices on that?
I'm sorry, I just don't know. But again, if you contact Elizabeth or Caroline, I'm sure they can get back with this information and they can check it out for you within a few clinics, just to make sure that the information we are sharing with you is correct. You're right. I don't know. It might be some different rules or things that has to be taken into the consideration. So I just don't want to share the information I'm not sure is right. So our girls have different possibilities. So please ask them, and they will get back to you. And you can always have a Skype or WhatsApp consultation with them, and just have a 20 minutes conversation. So maybe they know these things already. I'm not sure. Uh, Otherwise, they will have to check it out for you.
Yes, great. And thank you again for the interesting questions and for your honest answer, Alexander, as well. And yes, we have the next one on the list. After so many fails of IVF with my own eggs and egg donation, now we have decided to do embryo donation to give ourselves another. Which is the best way to go about it?
Um, it's difficult to say. It's obviously depends on probably on your budget, on your expectation. However, in most of the countries which are popular in Europe, um, uh, you may find the embryo donation as an option. However, what you need to know, there are different kinds of embryo donations, and this is something that many patients don't understand in proper way, because you can have the embryo donation, the embryo from the patients who had their own IVF treatment, and they had the embryo 1, 2, or 3. They just didn't use, didn't want, or because they got pregnant and have a child. And at many clinics, this situation can lead to giving or sharing these embryos to the embryo bank at this clinic, and then the recipient who is looking for embryo donation can be supported with these embryos. But these embryos can come from the couples who were treated because of the infertility, and they have the embryos. They're obviously good quality, and there are passed over the IVF bank, trial bank in this particular IVF unit. But there is the second possibility of embryo donation, which is this practice is more and more popular because it's easier to manage, because there are not so many embryos from patients who are treated, because most of the patients, if they got the embryos, they're just trying to keep these embryos and just vitrify, and sometimes they would like to have a second child, etc., etc. So there is the second option, which is called I believe there are many names for that, but I think the most popular is double donation, which means you get the oocytes from the donor, egg donor, and the sperm from the sperm donor. Sorry. And obviously oocytes and sperm are fertilized, and then you got the embryos. This option might be more expensive, I believe. However, it's kind of popular, and you may find it in many countries in Europe. I haven't got the proper knowledge to tell you the costs and the countries. However, again.
Oh, Alexander, I think that we lost the sound from you. Can you hear me? Alexander, can you hear me? No, I think that we lost Alexander's voice. If Alexander will not be back, then we will be slowly finishing.
I'm back.
Oh, yes, you are back. How glad to hear
Yes,
that.
sorry. I thought I lost you, but I think
No,
you
we lost.
lost me.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
lost
okay,
you.
sorry.
No problem.
Okay, but I'm back.
Yes, and great. And we actually lost you in the middle of your answer. So
okay, so I just let me finish, because that was important. There are two kinds of embryo donation covered in my answer. The first one is the embryo. There are embryos that come from couples who are treated in the clinics, and they have embryos which are not needed by them anymore, so they just pass them over onto the embryo bank in the IVF center they were treated. And the second way of doing the embryo donation is something which is called double donation, which means that you get the sperm donor and you got the oocyte donor, and then obviously there is the fertilization process, and that was you got the embryos, and some clinics still are saying that this is the embryo donation. So I'm just trying to make it clear to avoid any misunderstanding. And what you need to remember, that the first option is probably cheaper than the second one, because the second one needs the oocyte donor and the sperm donor, and the first one needs just the embryos from the couples who would like to share them. But the problem is that today in Europe, it's not really easy to get the embryos from the patient, so this cheaper option is not always available. If you have any questions or would like to know more information about the pricing, etc., and which clinics are available with this kind of solution, just ask Caroline or Elizabeth. They will be more than happy to get back to you with information.
Yes, and thank you again for answer to this question. And now we heard all of it, so good that you are back. In the meantime, I checked, and we are, I believe, almost done with all the questions. I will check if there's more time for you.
Okay.
Yes, I think that we answered all of them. Thank you for your answer. It's a shout out for you. And the next, thank you so much. Very informative and thorough answer. And I think that we have also one more. Thank you. And yes, again, for you, just in a second. Yes.
Thank you very much for all of this positive feedback. I can't see any negative one.
Yes, we have many more of
Yeah.
those. The webinar has exceeded my expectation. I think this is the biggest compliment you could have tonight.
Thank you very much.
And very helpful again. So we are very honored to hear that you, first of all, that you are
Thank you very
joining
much.
us and trust us, and second of all, that you find it helpful. So this is our aim, why we do that. Okay, there will be more thank yous. We will be just finishing for tonight. And of course, thank you for being with us again. And thank you, Aleksander, for your knowledge, which you shared
Thank you very
this
much.
evening.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It's always good to help some patients. And I wish you all good, the best on your way to the parenthood, which I know because I know patients personally. This is very, very difficult, not only from financial point of view, but also from medical and emotional point of view. And we really understand it, and our consultants understand it as well.
Of course, you can follow us on our social media, and you will also find there all the information and all the updates from us. The recording from today will be available on our website tomorrow, and it will be also available on our YouTube channel at Donation Friends. Have a great night or day wherever you are. Thank you, Aleksander, one more time, and
Thank you.
good night. Bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Good night.